great to see Julia here, Julia Liu, our local councillor, and I thank each and every one of you for taking the time to be here. I'd like to now invite, if I could, Joe, just to say a couple of words before we get David to come up and share a vision. Thank you very much indeed.
Gee whiz, Warren. When you said Julia was here, I shuddered a bit. Well, the good news is I'm not going to talk about the carbon tax tonight. It's good news for Julia too, but the other one. Look, Warren, there's two things. I do want to address the banking issue and the insurance issue, because it was raised in Cairns today. And given I was Minister for Financial Services and previously worked in this area in a previous life, I know a little bit about it, but I can say to you, I am intrigued as to why the body corporate insurance has just gone through the roof. In some cases today, people are suggesting it's gone up 800%. And that's going to have a very significant impact on the sale of property in this entire region. And with one insurance company in particular being of interest. So given that insurance company has its head office a few hundred metres from my office in North Sydney, I'll certainly go around and pay them a visit to find out why they're doing what they're doing. And being half Arab, I've got ways of persuading people. I'll do my best. In relation to banking, can I say this, that what happened out of the financial crisis, and it happened in other parts of Australia, but it's most dramatically up here, is the banks monitor very carefully unemployment rates. The far north Queensland has a similar unemployment rate to the Illawarra region, just south of Sydney. And what the banks do is they have certain triggers within their businesses. And when unemployment reaches a peak period, or what is designated about 7% unemployment, it triggers a whole lot of actions within a bank. It's a system issue. And when it gets to 7%, they usually find that their default rates increase significantly. So what they do is they, in a region such as this, with an unemployment rate up to 11%, what they do is they go back to the property portfolio and they'll say, we will get revaluations. The valuations are usually done, when you look at them carefully, on the basis of a forced sale. They usually brief the valuers to assess the value based on a sale of the property within 6 weeks after notification of the bank. Therefore, because it's a forced sale, that further devalues the property, well below current market. And of course, they've got their LVRs, loan value ratios, and they apply those. And when they get their final outcome, they go back to the borrower and say, look, we need you to put in cash to make up your equity to reduce our risk exposure. That's what the banks do. Now, in a region such as this, the secret is to get the unemployment rate down. It's as simple as that. You have to work at it, and government has to be involved in getting it down. And otherwise you end up with a systemically high unemployment rate. This is a region that I feel very strongly about. I mean, as many of you know, this is not my first visit to the region. In fact, I came here as a backpacker when I was 18, and it wasn't. It was about the time that the Mirage, this building, was originally under construction. And I thought to myself, I'll never have the money to be able to go into a place like that, or play on a golf course like that. And over time, I've been here on a number of occasions. I remember my first trip as Minister for Tourism, back after the collapse of Ansett. You remember? It was on the bloody hottest night I've ever had up here. It was December, and we sat outside and we talked about Port Douglas. Now, I love this region. I've personally invested in this region, and I brought my family to this resort on a number of occasions, and Lachlan has been a fantastic host as well. But it's tired. It is a tired facility. And this is a signature facility. It is, whether we like it or not, The Mirage Port Douglas, because of the fanfare associated with the original investment by Christopher's case, it is always deemed to be a signature tourism product for Australia. And what's happened is it's grown tired over the years with the lack of reinvestment, and our product generally has grown tired in Australia, our tourism product. And you know, when I went to John Howard with Warren's great help to set up the tourism white paper, and when I asked Cabinet for $250 million extra, one of the things that I can point to is that you have to change the face of the tourism product because of rising competition out of new markets, markets that didn't exist before, markets like Vietnam, increasingly Thailand. Bali's been around for a while, but a lot of new product there. Fiji remains incredibly competitive, but the Japanese were always looking for new product. They want to be re-excited. You can't just rely on the flow of Japanese tourists into far north Queensland. And as we've seen, when Japan's been caught with disasters or economic downturn, the numbers have dropped significantly. What's hurting the inbound tourism market at the moment, quite obviously, apart from the very sluggish performance of the American economy and European economy, is of course the high Australian dollar. And that's hurting the inbound market overall. Not only are numbers slightly down, so the volume is slightly down, but the yield is dramatically down. And we have to be a yield-based destination overall. Australia has to be yield-based. We're at the end of the earth, we haven't got high volume, we're not going to get 25 million visitors a year, like in Spain or in France or something like that, because we are a long way away. So we have to go for yield, and that is hugely important. Cairns is one of the rare places that relies overwhelmingly on volume too. 26,000 rooms, and it needs to have volume travel. It has a lot of backpackers. They're pretty good yield, but over a long period of time. But I must say that Port Douglas has always been a yield-based destination. You haven't got a phenomenal number of rooms here, but you've got to improve the return out of the tourists and give them multiple experiences. And that's hugely important, especially when you have a signature property. This is meant to be a 5-star signature property. And I was here with my family staying at one of the villas a few months ago, and Clyde Palmer and a number of other people were looking over the property at the time. And I couldn't believe that they were looking at the numbers. I mean, they just couldn't make it stack up. But David Mariner has stepped in, and David, I think the fact that you have invested up here is a very important for this region as a starting point. I think everyone's grateful for the fact that you've gone where others have chosen not to. Those words probably scare you a little, given that I just said it. But it is a signature property. You're buying a mark here at the Mirage at Port Douglas. Now, I'm not an expert on whether tourism product works or not, but the fact that you are putting your money and your investors' money up here deserves proper recognition. I think the community here wants to see new signature product. Now, the best way to reduce unemployment is to have cranes operating around the place, to get things moving, to get investment going. And if you're putting so much money into this area, then it will encourage others to invest. Have another look at Port Douglas. Think again. Importantly, it opens up opportunities, and it gives the tourism industry something to sell to foreign investors. When they're putting together their brochures for, you know, as the tourism industry does, 6, 12, 18 months ahead, going over to international travel forums, they want to be able to tell a story. And if they're telling a story that a signature property like the Mirage at Port Douglas is being totally refurbished and has a wonderful new facility that can host dinners for up to 1,400, the conventions come, they're very high yield. The exhibitions industry comes, that's very high yield as well. One of the regrets of one of my mates in the tourism industry is he constantly brings out, you know, all the franchisees of carpet companies in the US, and he brings out the franchisees of Quick Poppy and various others. And he constantly moans about the fact that he cannot get facilities that can hold more than 600 or 700 people. It is his constant regret. And he's constantly paying the forecourt of the opera, and their budgets are huge. But he's constantly putting up a tent on the forecourt of the Opera House. And he has to go through a DA process to do it, and he has to go through, the cost of putting up the tent. And these visiting conventions and exhibitions, they don't care about the money. What they want to do is have an experience. And what better experience than the Great Barrier Reef and this signature property. So, from my perspective, I'm not in government, there was a huge deficit to be paid. But if there is proof, and on first glance it appears there is, but if there is proof that this will create jobs and preserve jobs in the region, then it is a good investment because the benefits will flow through. And I'll certainly be urging the government and directly, in a non-partisan way, I'll be urging Simon Crean and the government to have a good look at this. Certainly Warren is an enthusiastic supporter. One thing I've learnt with Warren over 15 years is you don't stand between him and money. One of the things, he needed an extra $10 million to finish the boardwalk in Cairns. And he said, mate, you can open up the playground if you're on the boardwalk. If you give me the $10 million, and I said, well, how about I give you the $10 million? You don't ask me, don't you? Needless to say, there's a park there and I opened the playground. But I'd say to you that boardwalk has made a huge difference to Cairns and the associated areas. And that was a combination of council, state government and federal government. This region needs investment, and if you get that investment, you get that ambition, you get that drive, you get that enthusiasm, you get those cranes and builders going, then what happens is that the banks will start to look at lending again, and when they start to look at lending again, then they start to have another look at the valuations as well. And it all flows from that. Momentum, enthusiasm, opportunity, it's all a driver for economic activity. And that's what we have to do, not just in Port Douglas, we've got to do it across the whole country. I tell you, apart from the mining sector, the rest of Australia is in pretty ordinary shape. And for crying out loud, I'm promising myself I'm not going to be political, but from my perspective, we've got to stop making it harder for people, we've got to make it easier. We've got to give people hope that there's a better opportunity out there. And there's lots of ways to do that, but one obvious one at any rate. So I'd say to you, well done, David. I'm very interested to hear what you have to say. And Warren, well done. But also to all of you, have the faith. You're not, from my perspective, you'll never be forgotten. We can't allow Cairns, Port Douglas, the forgotten region. We can't allow that to happen. We need you to be strong for the Australian tourism industry to be strong. So I'm offering all the support I can offer. And if the numbers stack up and the ambition stacks up, then certainly I'll be offering my total support in trying to get the government to commit some money to this project. Thank you.